Hello, and welcome everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode of Numerology Quick Takes, we're going to take a look at the forecast for the week of September 15th, 2025. Before we get into that forecast, though, this is a general reading. If you would like your own personal numerology reading, please book some time with me. I'd love to work with you. You can find my information in the description box below. Okay, so this week, we are smack dab in the middle of this eclipse portal. We just had the eclipse in Pisces, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday prior. And this upcoming Sunday, we're going to have the next in the series, which is the solar eclipse in Virgo. So right now, we're like in this weird kind of funky area where the veil is thin. There can be a lot that's coming in, a lot of insights, a lot of downloads, a lot of information. And it can feel a little bit chaotic. It can feel a little overwhelming. It can feel like we don't know what's real, what's not real. What are we supposed to sort of grab onto and trust? And what are we meant to question and possibly move away from? So there's a lot of, again, sort of information overload, and it can feel a little bit, like I said, overwhelming. And so really what I would say during this cycle this week is to trust the process and trust yourself. So there's no need this week to force anything. There's no need to try to figure it all out. Like, again, the information will present itself. Well, it'll likely present itself from all, from various outlets, right? There'll probably be a lot coming in. And if you're too caught up in it, you're not going to be able to see the full picture. You're not going to be able to see what's important. And so I would say, get yourself grounded. Right? Again, we're moving we're kind of moving from like this dream state, like again, the illusion, to truth, to like real tangible understandings. And I say that because, again, kind of moving to the astrology, we just had an eclipse in Pisces, and Pisces is that more dreaming, ethereal, can be kind of hard to see what's really happening. And we're moving from that Piscean energy to the Virgo energy, which is very tangible. It's of the mind. It's logical. It's grounded. It's, again, very much like 7 energy, although we're not working with 7 energy. I'll get to what we're working with in a moment. But, there's 2 sides of the 7. The very ethereal, unseen sort of, dream state, and the very physical in the body, logical, knowledgeable intellect side. So it's interesting to me because I feel like, again, there could be, and I think there has been, obviously, but this week, I feel like there could be some illusions that as we continue along the week, there will be clarity there. The truth will come out. The truth will be seen. And again, I'm talking about like on a global scale, because this is a universal energy that we're working with, but it also affects us individually. So you could see this come in your own individual experience, where things might have just felt like contradictory, or again, like you didn't have all the information. And so you're meant to trust the process, like let things play out without trying to create the storyline that will best fit the narrative, that will best fit your narrative. Let things play out while being the observer and using discernment to decipher what's real, what serves the purpose, and what isn't real and what doesn't serve the purpose, whatever the purpose may be. So we are active players in this, but humans like to have control. We like to know, we like to fully understand what's happening and have all the pieces to the puzzle at all times. And if we don't, we create stories to fill that void. And I would caution you against doing that this week, because I think there's going to be, again, a lot of sort of mist, a lot of fog, a lot of the illusion. And I think it's probably going to get foggier before it clears, if that makes sense. And if you're so busy trying to fill the gaps, right, with your own storyline, you're going to miss the truth of whatever the situation is. So this week, before we really get into the full forecast, I would say be the observer, stand back and see where the disconnect is, see where the pieces are missing, and wait to see what presents before you try to fill that void, that gap. Because the information will come. It always does. But you can't force it. And when we try to fill the gap, we're forcing it. And then when sort of the truth comes out around that situation, whether it's a relationship or a career or whatever, however this comes in for you individually, or however we see this play out on the grand stage, don't try to force, don't try to push. Stand back, be the observer, see what presents, see where the disconnect is, and then decide, using your own personal discernment, how best to connect, like reconnect, right? Where there's disconnect, how do we reconnect? Where there is discord, how do we bring harmony? Where there's chaos, how do we bring calm to that situation, whatever it may be, in our own personal lives, or again on a more like global stage? And a reminder that our personal lives, our personal contribution affects the collective. It's interesting because we're working with 3811-2 energy. And this, of course, is a master number. It's actually it's a higher octave of the 11, right, being 38. So it's pushing us, again, to break through or see through the illusion. But again, not by force, by observing. Because of the 2 energy, right? The 2 energy is about, again, being the observer, seeing where there's disconnect, seeing where, how can we bring the 2 sides together? It's about balance. It's about, again, seeing eye to eye, compromise, but not compromise to the point of sacrifice or missing the point. It's compromise to build something better together. So it's interesting because, again, it's going to require, in order to fill the gaps, let's put it this way, in order to fill the gaps that are there, we have to work together. 2 energy. We can't do it ourselves. We can't try to figure it out ourselves. So again, that's why I say, whatever situation comes up for you this week, be careful about trying to control the narrative. Be careful about trying to insert your views, your desires, your ego into it. Because the 2 energy says we have to find common ground. We can each have our own ideas or our own ideals or values or whatever, but it's not about the individual. It's about the group, right? Like coming together, 2 or more people. So I do think that this week will give opportunities to work with others in order to build some kind of a bridge, to bridge that disconnect, wherever it may be within our own lives, that can bring some kind of healing, that can bring some kind of harmony to a situation, that can put things back into balance. But we can't have that if we're too focused on ourselves, if we're too focused on the individual. or just a few. So yeah, really interesting energy here for this week. This is a really powerful master number, right? Obviously it's the 11, but again, it's this higher octave of the 11 being the 38. So it brings in sort of this very spiritual component, but also the material world, because you have the 8. So there's a very strong emphasis here on all things governed by the 8. Power, money, status, influence, empowerment. And, you know, when we're talking about the 8 energy is very much like Pluto energy in Aquarius, in astrology. And so, you know, you have the higher octaves of the 8, which is, again, you know, philanthropy, opening doors for others, helping, you know, other people to get ahead, uplifting, empowering, inspiring others, sharing abundance, integrity, all these things. But you have the lower octave of the 8 as well, which can be control, manipulation, deceit, stepping on others to get ahead, you know, again, like kind of controlling the narrative, all of those things, creating an illusion in order to maintain dominance or control or whatever. And usually when we move through a cycle, right, you can move through the higher and the lower octaves of that energy in order to learn the lessons associated with it. So I wouldn't be surprised this week if we see big power plays, especially because this is leading up to an eclipse. So big power plays, you know, or even like the dismantling of power in some way. People taking their power back. And I say that because, again, Pluto in Aquarius, right, is power to the people. But again, you've got Pluto, which is, you've got the higher octave and the lower octave of Pluto. So again, Pluto can be about control, manipulation, all those things. And so before you can have the power to the people, you have to sort of break down or dismantle or rearrange the hierarchy, the way that the power is currently at play. So it's interesting because, again, we have the 38-11-2. We're moving into a very powerful eclipse, this solar eclipse in Virgo. It's occurring again on the 21st. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there are some major disruptions. I mean, I know there already have been, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are more. Significant disruptions, some chaos, some further illusions, right, that come to a head. And I'm not saying that everything is just going to like happen right now, but this week has the potential to be sort of a turning point. And I talked about this recently in, I think it was the eclipse video that I did. If you listen to the intro for the solar eclipse that's coming up, we were working with 3 energy for that. And this has in this week, we have the 38-11-2 energy. So again, we have this 3 energy. And what I had talked about in that previous video was the 3 energy is about creation. And it's the core of creation. It's like right down to the DNA, right? So it's like, it's at the core of existence. And so it's interesting. I think that because we have the 3 in this equation, 38-11-2, I think we're going to see change and shifts at the core level, wherever that change and shifts needs to happen. And that can be really uncomfortable as we're moving through it. And it always requires some kind of greater catalyst, etc., to break free from or break through the illusion that's keeping us from getting to that core change. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what presents this week. And especially as we move into this eclipse. But we're already feeling the energy for this solar eclipse. So just pay attention. Pay attention to what comes up this week. Pay attention to like where in your own personal life you don't have all the answers. You don't have the clarity. And where is it that maybe you're trying to push to create that clarity? Where is it that you're trying to create that narrative? And where is it that maybe you need to step back a little bit? Because it's trying to show you where there needs to be some fundamental changes within your own life. So it could be like maybe you're struggling with an addiction. Maybe you continue to show up to a job that is fully depleting you and is not good for your mental health or whatever. This week can really show you where it is that you need to make some serious changes to the way that you are showing up in your own life in order to make those fundamental changes in your life, in order to reclaim your power, in order to pick back up the reins within your own life to make the decisions that will move you in the direction of what inspires you, what puts you in spirit. Because the 11 is the inspirational leader. So when it comes in a cycle, it's trying to show us where we are inspired, right? Where it is that we are in spirit, where we feel most alive, where we feel most passionate, most aligned with our soul, with our calling, with whatever, with our gifts. But it's also trying to show us where we continue to show up to things or ideas or belief systems or values that actually deplete us, that take our inspiration away, that don't feel aligned. And it's in those areas where we will likely see the most challenges, because that's where that fundamental change needs to occur. And that's not easy. That's challenging. And it's interesting because we're literally seeing this like play out on a global stage. Like the earth, like humanity, is in a major pivot point in this time in history. And we all showed up for it. So yeah, it's not easy. There's, you have to go through the difficulties and the challenges in order to get to the other side and extract the wisdom and then do something with that wisdom, do something better. And again, because this is master level energy, it comes with master level challenges. But those challenges are not punitive. It's trying to show us where we need to get focused, get serious, and make a shift. But not just any shift, a fundamental shift, like at the core of our life, of our being, in order to rise up to something better, to show up in a more aligned way. And I think this week will help us to see easily beyond the illusions, but that's the key, right? If we're trying too hard to see beyond the illusions, then we start to create the storyline. Then we start to create, again, the story that fills the gap. And then we miss the truth of it. So again, don't try to fill the gap. Be the observer. See what's happening. See what presents. And then decide how you're going to use that information. This vibration at its core really is the vibration that carries the gift of vision. And truly waking up to the truth of a situation. But it even goes beyond that, because once we have the vision, then the question becomes, what are we going to do with that information? What are we going to do with that vision? And there's a very strong spiritual component to this. And again, these eclipses work, I believe, in tandem. Like they work together. So we have Pisces, which is a very spiritual energy. And then we have Virgo, which is a very physical, tangible, earthy, very grounded energy. So we are meant to tap into all sides of ourselves through this process. The soul, the spiritual self, and the ego, the human, having this experience, this very, very existential human experience. And so we're meant to sort of tap into all of those resources at this time. And that's what's going to help us to see beyond the illusion. because it's very easy to get caught up in the illusion when it's just the ego in the driver's seat. But when the ego is in the passenger seat and the soul is driving and the ego is, helping with the logistics, now we're working in tandem. Now we're working with all sides of ourselves and we can see the bigger picture. We can see what's real and what's not real, right? And we start to come back to that 8 energy of reclaiming our power. And not to have power or control over another, but to have power and control over our own lives to the degree that we're able, right? Meaning that this is also a spiritual experience and a partnership with the unseen. So, of course, there's some things we can't control. And that's sort of the lesson of this week, right? Take action where you can take action, but be the observer where the information hasn't been presented to you yet. And then once the information presents, because again, there will probably be a lot of information, use your discernment and your intuition and the information, right? Like to be able to decide and discern what is right for you, what is right for your family, what is right for your community, what is right for whatever, and take action accordingly. This is definitely a time, especially again, being sort of in this in between, this portal, where we could be getting a lot of downloads, a lot of visions, a lot of, information coming in through our dreams. So pay attention. And it can help us to sort of determine what's next. Like what's our goal? What's our next step? And when we decide to act upon that information, those downloads, those visions, when they present, we have the power to bring them to reality, right? Again, Pisces is that the dream, the idea, the vision. Virgo is bringing it into the reality, bringing it into the earth. And so we definitely have the power to do that in a massive way. And again, I'm not just speaking about the individual. Collectively, this eclipse cycle is so powerful. Like, I don't know if y'all are feeling it, but it is such a powerful, like, pivot point in history, I feel like. I feel like over the course of the next many years, we're going to see a lot of shifts on a global stage. And I feel like we can kind of come back to this point and kind of see where this was a catalyst. So I guess we'll see. But there's a lot here about tapping into and being open to the greater insights, the ideas, the inspirations, the visions that come in for you now, and starting to plan, especially around this Virgo eclipse, how you want to make it a reality, like how you want to birth it, how you want to bring it to life. Because I feel like you're going to have everything you need in order to do that. But again, I come back to use your discernment. Make sure that it's what it, feels aligned, what it, inspires you. You're not just doing it for the sake of doing it or doing it because you feel obligated or whatever. Because this 11 energy is here, you have to feel connected to it. If you don't feel connected to it, whatever it may be, then it's probably not for you. And I know that, might sound a little dramatic, but that's the energy of the 11. Is saying if you don't feel a connection to it, if you don't feel aligned with it, then it's no longer for you or it's not for you. So don't try to force it to be for you, whatever that might be. And it doesn't mean that you just shift gears overnight, but you can start to make decisions that will move you in the direction of your inspiration, of what puts you in spirit. And that's such a big piece of this, taking the inspirations and turning it into something tangible. But again, it stems from the inspiration. So don't ignore those inspirations. Don't ignore those ideas. Overcome the self-doubt or the negative self-talk that might be keeping you from following those inspirations. Let go of the expectations. I know that's easier said than done, but let go of the expectations of the outside world that's trying to keep you from following your inspirations. Because it's within those inspirations that holds your gifts, right? Your innate natural gifts, like the things you dream about, the things that come in for you, that you're naturally good at, that you naturally feel drawn towards. Those are indicators of your innate spiritual gifts. So don't ignore them, right? Just to accommodate or appease other people's expectations. Very, very powerful energy this week, but it's truly helping us to tap into our own unique authenticity and to really embrace that and to do something with it. And when we do, that's where we see the greatest rewards, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. Very, very powerful energies this week. Be good to yourself. Take your time. If you need to take some time off and rest and relax and rejuvenate, do it. These are big energies and they can feel very overwhelming. So again, be the observer and use your discernment. Follow your inner guidance. Trust yourself. And I think you'll be really happy you did. So I hope it's a great one. It's certainly going to be a powerful one. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.